Hey guys, Matt here, and this is an interesting video. If you guys don't know me, I'm traveling around the world on a trike, and I am going to offer to you my solution for the North Korea situation. Obviously, there's no easy solution to any problem, and the problem in North Korea is a big one. This is a sort of a dream solution. This would mean that a lot of things would have to come together, and a lot of people that ordinarily don't work together would have to work together to solve this problem. Why do I have the ability to even comment on this? I've lived in China for 8 years. I'm an American. I have been cycling and traveling through South Korea as well as Japan for the last 6 months, meeting people and talking to people and making vlogs and making videos and communicating with people. I traveled to North Korea and ran a marathon there. I spent a week in Pyongyang traveling the cities and going to the northern zone of the DMZ, the line that demarcates the North and South Korea. And I met with a bunch of North Koreans. I saw poverty, I saw the control exerted by the government, tried to watch TV and see the lack of internet there. So I had a really good understanding of what people are exposed to in North Korea. Another thing I did is I went to a museum in North Korea that was dedicated to portraying the West, in particular the Americans, as the chief antagonist of their current situation. They see the West as the reason that the Korean continent cannot be unified. So I have a pretty unique blend of experiences to at least offer my opinion on the situation. When I came back from my trip to North Korea, the first thing that I did was compile all the video together and make this marathon video that I had run there. Beyond the marathon, there was all the different things, the museum. I went to the home of Kim Il-sung, which is the grandfather of Kim Jong-un, who kind of founded what is North Korea today. And I found out a lot of interesting information. Now, please, this is based on the research that I did for my video. I looked on sources like Wikipedia as well as independent articles, and I tried to put together a pretty good understanding of what happened with North Korea around the time of the split. It is really sad because Korea, as a unified Korea, they should be one of the most powerful countries in the world. They're bordering China during the rise of China as far as a world superpower. They've got a relationship with America, and overall they were somewhat of a peaceful nation, especially during that time of World War II and before. So they've basically been a pawn in the game of chess controlled by some of the larger powers in the world, that being America, China, Japan, and Russia. So a little bit of contextual background. When Korea was unified, originally they were taken over by Japan, and Japan had control over Korea. After World War II, Japan was pushed out and Korea was divided. The Russians and the communist entities there kind of took control of the North, and the Western powers took control of the South. That's when all the trouble started to happen. Russia actually took a gentleman from the North, and they took him to Russia, and they started to train him. His name was Kim Il-sung. They kind of created the mythos of Kim Il-sung, indoctrinated him into the communist mindset. They prepped him to basically oversee and become the leader of North Korea. They have invested a lot in this guy, and they sent him back to North Korea to become the leader. They created a lot of interesting things. For example, there's a village of Kim Il-sung in North Korea. I've been to it. It's completely fabricated from whole cloth. The story of Kim Il-sung is that he came from an impoverished family. He fought against the Japanese, and his story is that of legend. And from that, he became a god to the North Korean people. But it was all fabricated. as a matter of fact, his village is completely fake. He didn't grow up in that area. The Russians kind of created, they said, if you're gonna go back and you're gonna become the leader of North Korea, you gotta carry a big story so that everybody will believe you. So they installed him there. Everybody in the village at the time, they said, will you carry on this story, because we're going to put this village here. Kim Il-sung grew up here, and if you don't follow this story, then we can't have you here. And there was a few people that dissented and said, no, I know Kim Il-sung didn't live here, and this village didn't spring up out of nowhere. And so they relocated all these people outside of this area, far enough away to where their voices of dissension weren't heard by anybody. And this is kind of how it was built. It was a myth of this great guy that was carried on and grew and grew and grew, and pretty soon the propaganda became truth. It was the West's fault for the downfall of North Korea. And the South, the poor South Korea, is controlled by this evil dictator, which is the Western powers, in particular America. It was very sad, because when I went to North Korea, I would see all of these North Koreans, and it would be almost pitying the South for their brainwashing of the Americans. And yet, if they would only view Seoul and Busan and all the countries that I went through, it's very easy to see how impoverished the North is, and how successful and modern the South has become. But because they control so much information, there's no way for them to see for themselves. So how do you solve the situation? How do you solve with the minimum amount of bloodshed in a way that can actually help? China could go in and try to do some damage, but they're so close, and the refugee problem keeps them from making the decision. America or anybody on the West, if they attempt to go in, we all know what could happen. Now, I have literally been cycling through Japan. The most recent missiles launched by North Korea went over my head twice. I was in Shiratoko in Hokkaido, and the missile went over my head the first time, and then the second time I was in Toyoko, which is a lake in Hokkaido, and the missile went over my head again. And I actually videotaped it, and it went kind of viral on YouTube and Facebook, and I was interviewed by BBC and CNN and a whole bunch of things, because I heard the sirens and you know, these warnings to take cover that North Korea was launching a missile. So none of the Western powers can do anything. So who can you rely on? Now, this is my dream, right? This is my kind of totally out of left field idea. Russia has a chief responsibility for creating this mess in the first place. They created the mythos of Kim Il-sung. They have lacked in support of trying to make and continue the support of North Korea into a country that could have been an industrialized communist country, right? I mean, if Russia was trying their experiment in North Korea, they failed miserably. And I think what they need to do is kind of clean up their own mess. Somehow we get to Russia and we tell Russia, all right guys, this is the deal. We can't fix this situation. We can't go into North Korea and exact any change, because everybody's going to launch missiles at us, and it's going to become all-out nuclear war. Russia already has a pretty strong relationship with North Korea, and ordinarily they wouldn't really mind allowing North Korea to kind of dangle out there. At least they're a buffer zone between China and America, and Russia benefits on trouble when there's chaos in the world. Russia, you know, is kind of in that area where they can't really be hurt by it. If the Western world is under some duress, it makes them a little bit stronger, because if the other powers are weaker, then they're a little bit stronger, and they're not related to all this Western hate off of the North Korean situation. But we all are affected by nuclear war. We are all affected if somebody lobs a nuclear missile somewhere, and then we all have to clean up that mess. Russia is included in that. So what you would think could happen is somebody go over there and appeal to this global responsibility to fix this problem. The thing is that you need to surprise North Korea with something that they're not expecting, right? Russia goes in. They do have relationships with North Korea. There's a lot of diplomats in North Korea and a lot of Russian business interests there. And what I would think is that militarily, Russia goes in to North Korea and sort of a blitz, goes in and takes out the whole Kim dynasty. I mean, I have a few haters on my videos. I think they're propagandists from North Korea that say that North Korea is actually this amazing country that is, you know, doing so great for their people against the Western powers. It's not true. North Korea is in a real pain, and those people there, the citizens, they're normal. They're great people, and sometimes you just got to go in there and cut the head off the snake, and the head of the snake is the whole Kim dynasty. And so I would think that the Russians could go in there, and the thing is that the Russians couldn't go in there under too much darkness, because they would assume that it's the Western powers doing it, and then it would start nuclear war. But if Russia went in there and simultaneously took out the regime while also making it very clear that it was the Russians, while also simultaneously delivering a massive explosion of information to everybody based on all the historical data they have about taking Kim Il-sung to Russia to train him to become the leader of North Korea, because Kim Il-sung is the deity there. He is the physical manifestation of God. So what you have to do is take the clothes off and show the emperor has no clothes. If you could do that with some amount of persuasion, while also taking him out, showing them that we did this, guys. We're here to fix this situation. We're taking the legend of Kim Il-sung, we're dissolving it. We're showing you the reality of who he is, because we created him, by the way. And we can tell you you're hurting, so we're here to try to make amends. Just kind of, whew. What I think that would do is North Korea, I'm sure they have plans in place. Whatever happens, attack the South, attack America, attack all these things. But I think that if Russia was to go in there, take a stranglehold on the whole situation, take out the Kim regime, that I think it would create enough disarray that you would have time. You might not have a lot of time, but you'd have enough time. More time than if South moved in, the Americans from the South of South Korea moved in, or anybody. You could do this in conjunction with a few different moves. So Russia would be coming in from the north, taking out the regime. Simultaneously, America and all of the military powers would slowly be moving out of South Korea. So you'd have this moving out, clearing out of South Korea as far as military goes, of the American powers. And this would have all been negotiated before. This is why I say it's a stretch, because Russia has to communicate with China, has to communicate with Japan, has to communicate with America. Everybody has to be on the ball on this. But basically, all this news starts to trickle into the north a little bit. I'm sure that they have some news sources that America is moving out of South Korea. There's some sort of movement going on. Well, they're moving out. Russia comes in from the top, gives them the 1-2 punch, takes out and also educates the north as much as possible. As soon as the regime is taken out, free internet to everybody. Everybody gets the blast of information that the world has changed since the demarcation between the two of the North and the South has been around, and the world ain't like it used to be. I think if done properly, we can stem the first huge attack. Russia would also have to take hold and actually destroy the nuclear capabilities of North Korea, very strategically, boom, 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 boom. All out. But it was all the Russians doing the actual heavy lifting of the military side of this. That's the key, because I think North Korea is not prepared to attack Russia. They're trained on the West. If Russia comes in and does all of this militarily, I think that the amount of time that North Korea would have to train their glance onto Russia would be enough time for Russia to kind of get in and wipe it clean. And Russia would have to do it all. I think they can do it. Militarily, they're fairly strong and they would be able to do all of this. The caveat here, and this is the big caveat, is the aftermath. Because after North Korea falls, everything would go into disarray. And that's when things get frustratingly complicated. North Korea has millions of people that are impoverished. Not only that, but they're brainwashed. and powerfully brainwashed. I mean, very powerfully, generations of brainwashing. Because I went to North Korea, because I saw what they want, the end game. I met with some military people in North Korea, and they said that they hated the American regime. And I got down and I drilled in, why do they hate America so much? And they said that they hate that America has separated the North and the South. They want a unified Korea, basically. They want the North and the South free to do what they want to do and everybody else butt out. So we give them what they want. That's the key. Everybody moves out militarily. So after Russia goes ahead and takes care of all of that situation, they move out. After the conflict, America moves out of the South. And we foster growth between the North and the South Korea. Basically what we do is we make unified Korea an example of peace for the world. We provide a fund that we all invest in, because honestly, we have all been playing with Korea as a pawn. I mean, that goes to say America has, Japan has, China has, Russia has. We all have had some responsibility for what has happened there. And if we could put together a fund, a regrowth fund, a rebirth fund, sort of like we did in Japan. We took all of the military power and military potential of Japan and we moved it out. And we also say that Korea cannot have any military for some time. They can be some defensive, maybe, but we say, listen, we're gonna allow Korea to become unified again. We're all gonna stay out. We're gonna let you guys grow. We're gonna support you in any way we can, minus militarily, and we're not gonna allow anybody to come in and take you over. Russia, you're out. America, you're out. China, you're out. Everybody's out. And if anybody decides to come in, then the other Axis powers can push them out. But that will be the incentive for the growth of Korea in the future. And I think, because I know somewhat what the propaganda has been inflicted on the North Koreans, that if you gave them exactly what they wanted, which is a unified Korea, and you allowed the line, the DMZ line, to dissolve, and you all of a sudden had there would be a transitionary period. There would be a lot of North Koreans moving into the South. There would be a lot of chaos. But I think this would be the best solution for the least amount of bloodshed and to avoid nuclear war. And in the end, after 10 or 15 or 20 years, you would have an amazingly strong country with relationships with all of the Axis powers. You'd have an example for peace for the world. You'd have this example of what can happen if everybody stops worrying about fighting each other and everybody starts working together. And we would correct a wrong, because it was wrong to divide Korea in the first place. Korea was unified long before we came in there and started separating North and South and tried to enforce thinking on the North and thinking on the South and everything. And by unifying Korea, I think you could actually get the best of all situations. And in the end, Korea could be a powerhouse for the world, and North Korea could actually finally get some needed respite from generations and decades of repression. And the South could come and help their brothers in the North kind of overcome this. And also, I think that there's probably a lot of mineral resources in the North that Korea could take advantage of and build upon, because the South is going to take a huge hit when they have to take over the North and try and fix that situation and readjust all of their thinking in order to get North Korea absorbed into the globalist community we have today. That is my solution for the situation in North Korea. Is it perfect? No. Is there some bloodshed? Of course. But I think that if all of the powers could work together, I think it's possible. I don't think anybody's going to listen to me, but it's possible. And YouTube allowed me the platform to say what I think. Anyways, I am in Japan right now. I'm on the road. I'm traveling on my recumbent trike, traveling around the world as I make my daily vlogs. If you're interested, you check me out at Jayoe Nation. You subscribe to my channel. And not all of my videos are political in nature, but I had wanted to state my opinion on how to fix this situation, because I had kind of been thinking about it while I was riding around, and I was like, you know what? This might just work if the world were, you know, were more cohesive, maybe. So, anyways, that's my solution. Take it easy. Jayoe. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.